In the board workshop, budget workshop meeting, and we are going to go ahead and start with Dr. Hale and Human Resources. So,
Mr. Bryant, could I just say a few words before we get started?
Oh, of course.
Okay, I hope everybody's got their department budget book, and there was some information, additional information that I put in the very front of the department budget book that had some different analysis. And so what I wanted to mention to you is the first analysis, which would have been the first page in your hold on. You've got it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. I thought you were still trying to get it.
I'm multitasking.
Okay. What I thought was that we would look at the department and school increases and decreases over last year and this year, so really over the last 18 months. So as you can see under departments for fiscal year 2021, at the district level, we are proposing, the district is proposing to reduce the district positions by $227,808. There's an A next to that, and behind that are all the schedules that tie to that number. We can go through them one by one, or I'm sure you guys have had the opportunity to look at those. Okay, and then the next year is fiscal year 2019-2020, and I chose to highlight this by departments, and then schools, and then the net increase or decrease. Excuse me. So if you look at fiscal year 2019-20 under the department section, you will see all of these have been previously approved. But there was a total of $969,015 that was reduced at the department, at the district level in departments in fiscal year 1920. So the accumulated reduction in positions at the district department for last year and what's being proposed for this year is approximately $1.2 million. Okay. So then, so someone might ask, where did that money go? So the next section shows you where the bulk of that money went. So it was positions that were reduced at the district level, and that those reductions in allocations were then reallocated to the schools in terms of positions at the school and support at the schools. So if you look at the section with schools, fiscal year 2021, you'll see that for this upcoming year, the staffing grids that were approved on April the 27th from that meeting, and I have that back up behind the summary sheet. For the specifics, but that was $171,100 worth of positions, and those positions were the positions that dealt with, excuse me, my voice, those dealt with the position of adding the assistant principal at Baker, the 2 assistant band directors, the assistant band director supplements, and the STEM coach supplement at all of the schools. Okay, so the net of those positions had already been approved at the beginning of this year, or as we're through the budget process. Okay, and then in addition to that, there was the proposal to consolidate the EBD alternative placement program, which was in 2 locations, and now it's been centralized to 1 location. So there was a reduction of $39,300 there, and then literacy coaches, there was a reduction of 2.56 positions that was for $210,944. So the total at the school level was an increase of $34,190 is what's being proposed for 2021, okay? So look at, right under that is fiscal year 2019, 2020. You will see that $869,124 of additional school positions in terms of staffing grid, the STP model, and the positions that were created as a result of the review of the ESE initiative when this DOE came in and reviewed our program that the superintendent asked for that review. So that totaled $869,124. So the total that has been pushed out to schools is $903,314 from the $1.2 million that was reduced at the district level for the same time period, which was last fiscal year, what's being proposed this fiscal year. And so then the net, even with the money that's been pushed out to the schools additionally, overall, we still will have a $300,000 savings in district department positions versus what's been reallocated to schools. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on that?
I have one.
Okay.
Mr. Destin.
Looks like basically we got rid of some literacy coaches in exchange for the new positions.
Say that again.
I said, it looks like we've lost some literacy coaches for the biggest part in
Well,
exchange.
we did reduce 2.56 in literacy coaches. That's what we're proposing. But that program was looked at, reevaluated. There were more than 2.56 literacy coaches. So with the revamping of that program, it was felt that those literacy coaches at the district level would not result in any loss of services out to the schools. Plus, we had some vacant positions that really was a result of.
So if you thought that was a bad idea, you probably wouldn't vote for that, would you?
If you,
As a board member, I'm talking about.
well, I mean, the positions, I believe, were vacant to start with, so
Oh,
it
really?
depends. I mean,
They were
when
vacant?
you say
They were.
that,
Okay.
but the
Well, that
mon-
makes it a little more palatable.
Yeah, and,
Okay.
and the trade-off was it still is services that are being provided directly to schools now in lieu of those
It is.
positions,
Okay.
okay? And again, all of the supporting schedules are behind there, so y'all can look at that, but I thought that was very important to see what has transpired over the last 18 months. And departments versus schools. Okay, after the first green sheet that I inserted in your booklet, you're going to see, and it was a stapled packet. It should have been in the front of your book.
Yeah.
And this one gives you an analysis of a summary by department. So if you look at last year's proposed budget to this year's proposed budget, and let me stop and say that to do any valid analysis, you need to use a consistent point in time. So we have always used beginning of the year compared to beginning of the year that you're proposing. So if you look at 2019, 2020, it was 28.9 million district departments. And for 2021, it's 29.6 million is the proposal. So there's an increase of $715,204. Now, with that being said, it's this, do y'all have this packet that was in the front of your book? I just want to make sure
I don't think we do read it.
it was there.
I don't see that one.
You see that one?
No, sir. Now,
Yeah, I had, well, and they were in
Which-
all of the front of the books.
yeah, oh, you're talking about here, right?
Yeah.
This one right here.
This is what I'm on now, yeah.
Yeah.
This is what I was
Right, right,
That was what I was talking
right.
about there, so let me just make sure. This is what, this one I was
Yeah.
talking
Right.
about.
Got that
And
one?
then this one.
The one you're
is
on
this
now?
one.
Okay, thanks.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, you're good.
Okay. S- Okay, so when you look at this as a summary of the district departments, it's an increase of $715,204. However, let me explain that increase, because it's really overall would not be an increase. These predominantly are made up of uncontrollable cost. So if you flip to the next page in your packet, this packet shows you a comparison between last year's budget and this year's budget by object, okay? So if you run down, I'm going to point out 3 objects to you that predominantly make up that increase that's reflected. And those are, when I say they're uncontrollable costs because they were not anything that, that 2 of them, they were not any items that that departments proposed to increase. They were things that were either mandated or as part of the normal course of business, we had to include them. So if you ran through each one of these objects, go down to object 210, Florida Retirement System. You'll see of that 715,000, 289,488 is Florida Retirement. So what that means is that the Florida Retirement contribution rate for 2021 was increased by 1.53%. So we, the district, the school board, could not control that increase. So even if you if you had the same number of people that you had and never changed one position, you would have a 1.53% increase. And for us, because of the volume of employees we have overall, that's about 2.7 million. But for departments, it was 289,000. So then look at the next object is 0231 that I'd like you to look at. That increase is $207,960. Okay, so where that comes from is that is our health insurance. I have to project an increase in our health insurance to make sure that the budget that we're recommending to you is fiscally sound. Now, if it's not as much as I'm estimating, then you'll have some money left over, and we will put that back to for other purposes. But we would have to bring that back to you in the form of a budget amendment. And likewise, if it was more than what I estimated, then I still will have to come back to you. But if you look at those 2 items, you're at about 97,000. And then the last item that is of any significance is if you go down to object 550, repair parts. Okay, there's an increase of $65,300. Well, that is probably a result of we've gotten a few more buses and making sure to get all of those buses up to standard and checking them out, making sure that everything is in working order. The buses that we got from Escambia, the 2 groups of buses, plus anything that we may need. So there was a increase there. So out of that 715,000, about 574,000 is related to just that object, those 3 objects. Okay, and then as we go through, you'll also note that the difference, it's about $154,000. I mean, that is related to salary increases that you granted this past year that are now reflected in the cost. Okay, And so behind each one, after that page, every single department, there's a sheet on it by object that shows you any increases or decreases, okay? So this kind of was just a cheat sheet for you to be able to quickly look at the comparisons to see if you saw anything of significance. So then what we'll do now is start through the departments, and what I plan to do is to start through the departments, and then if you have any particular questions, then we can address that, or the department person that's here responsible for that area can address it.
Okay.
So
before we move forward, I do want to thank you, Ms. Gallen, and to apologize to all of our support people that are here to be a part of this. And I know we're way behind, but we felt that, you know, the school reopening plan was very important to get through. So, you know, moving forward, we do appreciate everybody is still out there waiting their turn. So.
Absolutely. So does anybody have any questions so far on what we just talked about?
Any questions from Dr. Kelly so far? Any comments?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Ms. Ivanchek?
No, thank you.
Dr. White? Okay. Dr. White, are you there?
Yes, as I said, sometimes I can't hear.
Okay. So, but we heard you, so that's good. So, all right. Go ahead, Ms. Scallon.
Okay. Okay, so if you'll look at the tab that says summary, we'll just kind of run through that little bit of information. On page 1, you have an organizational chart that lays out the organization, the different departments, and the sub-departments. Okay, page 2 through page page 2 through 5. In one of the prior meetings a couple of years ago, it was requested, because this is just dealing with district departments, it was requested that that I provide a crosswalk to the project book also to show which projects are under the purview of which departments. So that's what you see in 2 through 5, okay, that information. Okay, and then the next page is 6 through 8, just is a list of projects. Actually, 6 and 7 is your list of projects that are in your project book. And typically what happens is that you receive the department book first, and then the project book comes a little bit later. So that's why that information is in there, so you would know those projects are coming. But I've already given you the project book along with the department book. So those projects are in that book. And then page 8 is shows you which projects will be allocated as they're received. And so so these are as you go, because we don't go ahead and allocate until we know we're going to get these revenues. Okay. Okay, so if we look at page 9, and I won't go through all this, but just to mention to you what you do have in there. Page 9 through 12 are all of your revenues within the general fund. And so when you look through here, you will not see any significant major changes except in your Florida FEFP and your district school taxes. Now, there are several that that do not have a comparison to last year, because those are revenues that we appropriate them as we receive them, because there's no certainty as to if you're going to receive them or how much you're going to receive. So that's why we do that. Okay, and then page 13. Page 13 breaks down the proposed budget for 2021, and it just gives you a view of each department, what makes up salaries and benefits, what makes up operational, and then the total budget. That's on page 13. Okay? And then again, page 14, I've already given you that information in the summary information. And then page 15, again, I show you 1920 versus 2021 and break it down by salaries and benefits, and then the other comparison is the operational for each department. And then page 16 does a comparison of last year to what we're proposing for this year, and it breaks it down by department, and it breaks it down by category of employee, whether they're administrative, managerial, educational support. So that gives you some reference there, and if you look at that and have any questions, then you can always let me know, and I'll get those answers to you. Okay, so I guess now we are ready to move forward on the actual departments, unless somebody has a question.
So, Mr. Destin, any questions?
No, sir.
Ms. Ivanchek? Dr. Kelly, any questions?
No, but I will say it's very, very difficult to hear. The audio is very faint.
Okay.
Thank you.
Miss Dr. White, any?
No, Mrs. Wright, I understand that the budget that has been presented is as we have received from the state. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you, Dr. White. And Ms. Ivanchek, are you there?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't have any questions, but I can't hear her.
Okay.
So I'm just looking at the book.
We've readjusted her microphone, so hopefully it'll come through a little bit clearer.
Okay.
I will try to speak louder, and I'm sorry I'm losing my voice. Don't know really why, but I will talk louder. Okay.
Yeah, that's much better.
All righty. So the first department that we're going to look at is Human Resources, and that is on page 94. And I had sent to you the department budget meetings, and then referenced the page number in the department budget book for each department. Okay, and so as you know, the first page that you'll see is the organizational chart for that department. And then what you'll see is the staffing chart for the actual human resource department. And then page 96 is the first page that shows you a comparison of your appropriations and your staffing for the human resource department. So as you can see, excuse me, as you can see in object group 100s and 200s, you compare this year that we're proposing to last year. There's an increase of $39,529. Again, what you've got to remember is that in that increase is your FRS increase of 1.53, which is significant, a projected increase for health insurance, and then a raise that was granted this past year. Okay? So object 300, there's an increase of $5,125. 600, object 600, a reduction of $550. So overall, the increase in that department is $44,104, and there are no changes in staffing proposed. Okay, page 97, 98, and 99 actually give you the detailed breakdown of each one of the objects other than the staffing, and tells you what that request is going to be used for. Okay. And then page 100 in Human Resources, it this sheet on every department will go through on Section A. It'll tell you the positions that were approved in 2019-20 last year. Section B1 tells you any additions, deletions, and/or changes that occurred during the year, which would have been brought to the board. Section B2 is any requested additions, deletions, or changes for the coming year. And then C is a recap from last year to this year, and with any changes that occurred during the year or proposed for the new year. So does anybody have any questions on Human Resources?
Any questions?
I have a question on the, Ms. Scallon, when you put the salaries, the initial part is, the base salary without the FRS and all those things, right?
Okay, which, and I'm sorry, Ms. Vancheck, which page and what are you referencing?
On the salary piece, when you list out salaries, because you were talking about how the cost went up because of retirement and those things.
Mm-hmm.
So when you list out a salary and all of these things, for example, on page 100,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
list out the job title
Mm-hmm.
and then the total cost. Is that with all benefits?
Yes.
Okay, that's my question. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all inclusive. It includes FICA, retirement, insurance.
All benefits, right? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am,
Okay.
all benefits.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay.
Okay, so then we would move to page 34, which is Bay Area Office. And again, page 34 and page 34 shows you the staffing grid for that department. Page 35 shows you a comparison of appropriations and a comparison of staffing. So as you can see, there's no increase or decrease in staffing. And then in overall, that budget shows a reduction of $17,255, and that's a result of an educational support position that a senior person retired and was replaced with someone with less experience. So that's what generated that significant decrease in salaries. Even though numbers of positions didn't change. Okay, so, and I think if everyone is okay with this, or if you, that I'll move from one department to another unless somebody has questions, and then just speak up and I can stop and address those. Is that okay?
Yeah, I was going to make that suggestion instead of me just stopping. School board members on the phone, just if you have a question, just go ahead and, let me know that you have a question, and we'll have that person answer it for you.
Okay, so the
Thank you,
next,
Mr. Ryan.
Yeah.
okay, so the next department we would move to is Professional Services, and that's on page 123. Okay, so you have the staffing chart for that school, for that department. The item that's highlighted in yellow are positions that work at the school level. Then if we go to page 124, you will see that there's no proposal for an increase or decrease in positions. Overall, the increase that's requested or for that department is $9,504. Of that, the $9,654 is with personnel. And again, that's a result of Florida retirement, health insurance, and any raises that were granted this past fiscal year. And then the other objects, purchase services, there was a reduction of 50, materials a reduction of 50, capital outlay a reduction of 100, and other expenses an increase of 50. So you can see that's minimal. And then page 127, again, we start out with last year. There were no changes during the year. There are no proposed changes for the new year. So, so section C shows you what your positions are and the projected cost of those positions. Okay, the next department is risk management. On page 133. So again, the first page is your staffing chart. Then 134 is your comparison of appropriations and staffing. As you can see, the staffing, there's no proposal to increase or decrease positions. Appropriations dealing with salaries and benefits is an increase of $18,674 for the same reasons that I've already previously mentioned. The increases in the Florida retirement system, projected health insurance, and increase from this past year. There's a reduction of proposed $4,750 in purchase services. They're reducing their materials and supplies by $800, increasing their capital, which is equipment type items, by $200. So overall, the increase is $13,324. Okay. So with that being said, then we'll move to Ms. Lightbourne's departments. Okay, so the first department would be Assistant Superintendent, Academic Student Services, and that starts on page 23. So again, page 23 is your organizational chart that shows you the assistant superintendent and all of the departments that that person is responsible for. Page 24 is the actual department staffing, which is assistant superintendent and an administrative assistant. Then if you flip to page 25, staffing, I'm starting at the bottom going up, and because I just that way we can get the staffing out of the way. There's no proposal to increase or decrease staffing. Again, your salaries and benefits are predominantly made up of those increases in fringes and the raise from last year that I mentioned. And the reason, just to mention, when you look at the administrative managerial, it's predominantly those benefits, but that position was vacant, budgeted at an average, and then the actual salary varied from that, so that contributes to that increase. And then the professional and technical, the reason you see a reduction there of almost $9,000 and no position changes because the incumbent there chose not to participate in health insurance. Okay, so then page 28 is your staffing chart. Again, there's no proposal for increases or decreases in positions, and none occurred during the year.
Rita, you just brought up something, and can I just ask about
Yeah.
The insurance piece? And it is true that we do have employees that don't take our insurance. Now, when you're figuring that up, and I should have probably asked this, but a little while ago, but when you're figuring up the insurance cost, are you taking into account, is it for every employee? Is that what you're going by?
No, I mean, I actually each year pull the reports of everybody who's participating
Okay.
in the health insurance program and get the actual cost of that. Now, I do smooth that over all employees, because otherwise I would have to know, that Mr. Destin took insurance and you didn't, and so that would be
Right.
monumental to do that. So I smooth it over all employees, but I do it based on the cost, based on the number of participating employees.
So that is employees that actually are in the are in the insurance program.
The cost
So-
is, yes,
right,
sir.
Okay.
Okay, so the next department that we would move to is curriculum and instruction, page 73. And again, page 73 is your staffing chart. And it lists your positions, and it lists the projects that those positions are funded from. Then if you go to page 74, again, there's no proposal to increase or decrease positions there. The salary and benefits increase is $10,097, which is the only thing that's increased in that department. And again, that's a result of the things I've already mentioned. Okay, so if you go to page 77, again, this is just your department staffing summary, which then chronologically brings you from last year to this year. There have not been any changes or additions or deletions, and there's none requested. Okay, so the next department would be the ESE department, and that would be page 83. And again, page 83 is your staffing chart. All of the boxes that are highlighted in yellow are positions that work at the school level. Page 84, you will see on page 84 under the staffing, the overall change is 0, but it shows a .40 reduction in instructional and a .40 increase in educational support. That basically was the parent liaison. If you'll remember back, it was going to be an instructional position, and under that category, and then I believe there probably was some it was hard to recruit someone, and so then it was rewritten to where it was under, fell under the educational support rank. So it's the same position, was just reclassified in category. And so that's where you see that .40 up and .40 down. Okay. And then, as you can see, in the appropriations, in the object group 100, 200, salary and benefits, it's a reduction of $50,214. That basically occurred because there were some vacant positions there. They were estimated at an average. When they were filled, the actual was less than what the average projected was, and so that's what resulted in that decrease, netting the increases in FRS insurance and other employee raises. And then you can see your objects, 300 was an increase of $440, 500 is an increase of $500. Your object 600, which is equipment, was a reduction of $280, and then 700 objects was an increase of $680. So overall, it was a reduction of almost $49,000. Okay, so then we'll move to the next department, which would be staff development. And that is page 153. Again, staff development, you have your staffing chart, and the box in yellow is positions out at the school level that support the school. Okay, page 154. Again, there's no increases proposed or decreases, and your overall increase in that department is $764. And that, again, is from the things I've already mentioned on the fringe benefits related to employees. So if you look at page 156, again, this is your department staffing summary. There's nothing being proposed. There's nothing that changed during the year.
So the literacy coach, or I'm sorry, let me make sure I got that right. The instructional coach, and that's highlighted in yellow, and I don't see it over here on page.
That's because
Is it
that's
because the
out of a
schools-
project. It's out of a project and it's at a school.
Okay, all right, just wanted, I figured that much, I just wanted to make sure.
Because at one time, for years, when we did the department budget books, it was just departments, and then there was the request to cross-reference it to projects and positions and projects. So that's why now I give you that cross-reference, and then I also yellow highlight all of the positions that are in a project that are directly out at a school, but they're under the purview of whatever department. Okay. Okay, so the next department we will move to is SIS, Attendance, Discipline, and Athletics, and that's page 160. And again, that's your staffing chart, and again, you see the yellow box is your attendance officers that service schools, and they're out of a project. Okay, so page 161, there's no increases or decreases proposed in positions. And you have a increase of $3,829 in salaries and benefits. Again, that's attributable to what we've already talked about. And then there are minor increases and decreases in your objects 300 through 700. So overall, it's $3,704. And then page 164, again, that's your department staffing summary, and this gives you your actual cost, where your staffing chart gives you the number of positions. But again, there's no proposed changes, nothing changed during the year, so there's no change there. Okay, so the next department is Esau, Psychologists and Health Services, and that's page 165. Okay, so again, the yellow highlighted boxes are positions that work at the school level. They're funded from projects, they're not funded from the department discretionary. And then the rest of the positions are at the district level, and it shows what the funding is.
So on this particular item, we have a teacher, two teachers on special assignment. Could we explain that particular role there? So,
Okay, one of the teachers on special assignment.
Lisa Tucker, she's over Esau and our foreign language and all of our specials, band, et cetera.
Okay.
So that's been her role for a few years now.
Okay. And the reason why I brought that up is just sometimes, when the general public might see that, they would probably want to know, why is this particular teacher on a special assignment, maybe not in the classroom, so that way we can justify why we have Ms. Tucker in her position, and obviously there's somebody else in a position too. Yeah. Oh, I agree, she does her fair share. Okay, go ahead,
Okay.
Ms. Scallon.
So if we move to page 166, again, no increases, no decreases requested. You'll see that your salary and benefits is actually a reduction of $6,260. And that's probably attributable to maybe a change in the actual person versus what the estimate is. I'm so sorry. Keep forgetting to lean forward.
Well, it's not like you're in the microphone all the time.
Yeah, and then objects 300 through 700, a reduction of $54 is proposed. So overall, this department's a reduction of $6,314.
Okay, good.
Okay. Okay, so the next area will be my area. So the Chief Financial Officer, page 57. Okay, so you have your organizational chart that shows you the departments that report to me. And then the staffing chart that shows the actual positions just in my department. And then page 59, there's not a request for an increase or decrease in positions. Overall, salaries and benefits, it's an increase of $20,254. Again, that's related to all of the things we've already talked about. Okay. And then page 63. Page 63 is your department staffing summary. There were no changes during the year, and there are no requested changes. Okay, so the next department we'll move to is accounting and financial reporting, and that is on page 17. So page 17 shows the staffing chart for that department and the corresponding positions. Page 18 is your appropriation page and your staffing comparison. Again, no increases, no decreases requested in positions. You have salaries and benefits and proposed increase of $26,726. Again, that is related to health insurance, Florida retirement, and raises that were granted this past year. In objects 300 through 700, there's a requested increase of $661 for an overall increase in this department of $27,387. Okay, so page 22 is your department staffing summary. Again, there were no changes during the year. There are no requested proposed changes for the new year. And so this is the cost of the staff and the types of positions you have. Okay, so the next department would be page 40, which is the budgeting department, budgeting and fiscal services. Page 40 is your staffing chart. Page 41 is your comparison of appropriations and staffing. In staffing, there's a proposing to reduce a .60 of a position. In your appropriations, there's an overall reduction of $11,802, and that was because of the retirement of the .60 position. Okay, and then page 45 is your department staffing summary, and then as you can see, there were no changes during the year. However, for the 2021 year, there was a retirement and the proposal of deleting that partial position. Okay. Okay. The next department is purchasing, and that is on page 128. Again, that is the staffing chart, which shows your director and 3 buyers. Page 129 shows your comparisons of appropriations and staffing. There are no proposed increases or decreases in positions. Your proposed increase in salaries and benefits is the $18,142. Again, that is a result of all of the items that we've talked about affecting employees. And then in objects 300 through 700, there are minimal increases. 300's increase of $495, materials and supplies a reduction of $100, and other expenses an increase of $395 for a total increase of $18,932. Okay, so then we will move to the superintendent's cost center, which is page 170. Again, page 170 shows you the organizational chart and the department heads that report to him. Then page 171 is the actual staffing chart for his department, which is himself and an administrative assistant. Then we move to page 172. There are no requested increases or decreases. And then in salaries and benefits, the increase is related to all of the items that we've already talked about that affected employees' salaries and benefits. So the total overall increase is $6,173 in that department. And while I'm on this department, I may as well just mention that on the salaries and benefits there, as you know, being elected officials, those increases that may affect an elected official's position is not anything that's determined by you, the board, or the superintendent. That is dictated by the state of Florida. So that's where those, that increase. And the 6,173 is that position plus the assistant position and health insurance increases. Okay, the next department is Niceville Central Complex, page 118. So page 118 has the staffing chart. Page 119. Shows your comparisons on staffing and appropriation. No proposed changes to staffing. Appropriations was an increase of $6,719 for salary and benefits. And then there was a decrease in Object 300 purchase services of $3,530 and an increase in energy services of $4,000. So the net increase for that department is $7,189, and the energy services is electricity, which again is beyond our control for the most part.
Mr. Horton? Oh, Rita, you're being asked to.
Sorry. I gotta get used to that. Okay, and so page 122 is your department staffing summary. Again, there's no proposed increases or decreases in positions.
Okay.
Okay. So if
I
there's...
do have one question, if you can hear me.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
can.
Good.
Thank you. So on page 121, I know we said that we did not have any additional positions being added right there. And this may be a misprint, but under 510 on page 121, it says supplies for central complex to include curriculum offices, transportation, training room, etc. And the end of that sentence, it adds, addition of offices/employees has created a rise in the amount of supplies being used and needed. So that just sounds a little bit conflicting to me.
Because we moved.
And I mean, we can look at that and change that wording, but I think the intent was that because there's been some changes in offices and we have 2 partial employees there, that there has been a need for additional supplies to keep everything clean and the extra things that they're having to do.
Moving human resources.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, but we'll make that adjustment on the employee, on the wording employees. Okay, so the next, we will now move to Ms. Gates's departments. And so the first one is on page 46, which is Career and Technical Education. Okay, so page 46 is your staffing chart. Again, you see the yellow box, which those are positions working at the school level. So page 47 is your comparison of appropriations and positions. Again, positions, there are no increases or decreases. In your appropriations, your salaries and benefits, there's an increase of $10,087. That again is attributable to retirement contribution, insurance, and this past year's increases in salaries. Purchase services, there's a request for $800 increase. Materials and supplies, $200. And other expenses, $700. So the total's $11,237. Okay. And then page 50 is your department staffing summary. Again, no request for changes in positions during the year and no proposed changes for 2021. Okay, so the next department that we would move to is Community Affairs, page 64. Staffing chart is on page 64, and it has one position. And then page 65, there are no proposed changes in positions. And the only change in appropriations is in the salary and benefit category. And again, that's attributable to all of the items we've already talked about. Okay, so the next department we would move to is Special Programs / Schools and Principal Evaluations on page 147. So page 147 is your organizational chart, which is your director of special programs and the departments that report to that position. 148 is your staffing chart with one position there. And then we move to page 149. There's no proposal for an increase or decrease in positions. Under appropriation, salaries and benefits is an increase of $4,787. Again, that's related to previous year's salary increases, insurance, and retirement. And then purchase services is an increase of $1,700. Materials and supplies is a reduction of $1,700. And capital object 600 is a reduction of $750. So the overall increase would be $4,037.
I do have a question,
Okay?
Go ahead.
if I might.
Yes, ma'am.
And this might be for Mr. Chambers or it might be for Mrs. Gates. Are we still following the leadership plan that was submitted to the state in 2018 and 2019? I believe that was a 5-year plan.
Yes, we are.
Ms. Gates said, yes, we are.
Okay, so I noticed in that plan that is posted on our district's website and that was submitted to the state that it lists the curriculum on page 25 plus and the courses listed and detailed on page 47 plus, and in all the appendices list 14 courses to be taught over a 2-year period of time that I personally know the author of, and I know that those are not in our curriculum for our training of our principals. We can address this at a later time, but I just wanted it noted that that is not the plan that we're following.
Have you had an opportunity to reach out to Mrs. Gates, Dr. Kelly?
Well, you had told me that you were going to, Mr. Chambers, so I left that in your court.
Thank you.
Okay, the next department we would move to would be Special Programs, page 140, we are in that department. So we have finished with page 149, and so let's move to page 152, which is your department staffing summary. Again, there's no proposed changes for next year, and there were no changes during the past year, so no changes for positions. Okay, so next we will move to the school board, page 138. And again, page 138 is, reflects your staffing chart. 139 reflects the appropriations comparison and the staffing comparison. Again, there are no proposed increases or decreases in staffing. There was a reduction of $8,971 in object 100 and 200, which is your salaries and benefits, and that and then in purchase services, there's an increase of $3,380 requested. Materials and supplies, an increase of $200. Capital outlay, reducing that object by $1,800, and other expenses, a request to increase $200. So overall, that department is a reduction of $6,991.
And
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay, so why is there, I'm sorry, I can't hear you that well on the phone, so I may have missed it, but tell me why there's a decrease in the salary piece?
I will have to look at that, Ms. Vancheck. I am not,
On 139 where it says.
right, and
Yeah,
I see
because
that. I just
decrease.
don't know the detail right off of my head as to what created that. I have notes, but I don't have a note on that one.
Okay,
What-
and on the capital outlay, I know you made an explanation, but I'm sorry, I wasn't able to hear that.
That was
Why is that changed?
that because there was a request to reduce it by $1,800. That's the budget that was proposed from the school board's office, to reduce that by $1,800.
So the amount that we get for capital outlay is being requested to be reduced?
Okay, and now,
she's-
just to make sure that there's no confusion, this capital outlay is not related to the allocation that school board members get from capital outlay funds. This is the department, budget, you know, what, Jan uses to run the school board office.
Oh, okay, so those, kind of those expenses to run the office, okay?
Yes,
All right.
ma'am.
And
Okay, thank you.
and Linda, I can have Ms. Ivanchek, I can have Jan send you the copy that I have right here of the school board budget, so that can help you kind of see what she's looking at. But I know a couple of things that she that we talked about was like upgrading to Adobe on using a certain computer program, and the subscription, of course, is a little bit higher for that. But we also have reduced some of the expenses, especially with ordering ahead for like the Auntie Mitchell Awards. We were able to order extra now, so. But I'll have Jan send you that copy.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bryan, I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'll get you the information on the salary piece.
And if I'm not mistaken on the salary, I think didn't ours go down this, didn't they readjust it where we actually went down this year?
That was the year before.
The year before? Okay.
Yeah.
Of course, you could explain too, with us being elected, our salary's set by the state, so sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down.
That's correct, and you have no control over
I
that.
have no control over it.
It's based on the number of students, isn't it, in the district?
It's
starting-
actually based on the population of the
Of the
county
county.
with which you live in.
Right.
Yeah.
And also average of what a starting teacher, like a starting teacher salary.
Yeah, they made a change to that where if the beginning teacher pay is less than the amount that is recommended from Tallahassee, then you get the lesser of the two.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, and so now we will move to Steve Horton's area, and the first department will be Assistant Superintendent Operational Services, page 29. So page 29 shows the organizational chart, and it shows his position and all of the departments that report to him. Okay? Then page 30 is his actual department, and as you can see, there's two positions there. Okay, page 31 is your staffing and appropriation comparison. Staffing, there's no recommendation of increases or decreases. Under appropriations, salaries and benefits, it's an increase of $9,974. Again, that's attributable to the items that we've already talked about. Under purchase services, there was a proposal to reduce by $850. Energy services, a reduction of $900 for an overall increase in that department of $8,224. Okay, the next department that we'll move to is Carver Hill, which is page 51. Again, page 51 is the staffing chart, so you see two positions. Page 52 is your staffing and your appropriation comparison. No changes proposed in staffing. Your salaries and benefits is an increase of $4,039. There's a proposal to reduce purchase services by $16,400. So a net reduction in that department of $12,601. Okay, and then we go to page 56. Again, department staffing summary. No changes proposed, increases or decreases for next year. Nothing changed during the year. So it lists your positions and the costs. Okay, the next department we would move to is Courier Services, and that is on page 69. And 69 has the staffing chart, 3 delivery personnel, couriers. Page 70 reflects the staffing and the appropriations comparison. In staffing, you can see there's one position increase that occurred during the year. It was a position that that had been there was a gentleman that was a courier who had had an accident, and that position was eliminated, but the funding was still there for that position. And then so now during the year we filled that position and requested that position be resurrected. Okay, so on your appropriations, under salaries and benefits, you see an increase of $46,855. That's attributable to the addition of that position and the other things that we already talked about: FICA increase, retirement increase, health, and other raises for other positions. Okay, page 72 is your department staffing summary. Again, you'll see in Section B, you'll see the addition of that position during the year, which was school board approved during this past year. And so with that, that ties back to the position increase and the cost that's reflected. Okay, the next department we would move to is Custodial Services, page 78. Page 78 is your staffing chart. Again, the boxes highlighted in yellow are positions that are working at the school level. Page 79 is your staffing and your appropriation comparison. Staffing, there's no proposal to increase or decrease. Under your appropriations, there's an increase of $1,537 in salaries and benefits. In purchase services, a reduction of $1,550. Materials and supplies, an increase of $600. Capital outlay, a reduction of $500, for a net increase in that department of $87. Okay, so the next department that we would move to is page 89, which is facilities planning. Again, page 89 reflects the staffing chart. Page 90 is your staffing and appropriation comparison. No proposed increases or decreases for staffing. Your salaries and benefit objects reflects an increase of $13,717 for the reasons that we've discussed previously. Object 400, energy services, there's a reduction of $2,600. And object 700, there's a proposed increase of $4,000. So overall, that department is an increase of $15,117. Okay, the next department that we will move to is Information Services, page 101. Okay, page 101, the staffing chart that shows you the head of that position and the positions that are within that department. Okay, so page 102 shows you your staffing and your appropriation comparison. And you will see in the staffing, there's an increase of one position, and that occurred during the year last year. And in the appropriations, salaries and benefits, there's an increase of $155,835. That's attributable to that increase in position and like we've discussed previously, health insurance, previous raises, and increase in Florida retirement for all of the other positions in that department. Under Object 300, Purchase Services, a reduction of $8,950. Object 400, Energy Services, an increase of $400. And Object 500, Materials and Supplies, an increase of $4,000. For an overall increase of $151,285. So if we flip to page 106, which is your department staffing summary, you will see in section B1 there was an addition of the teacher on special assignment 10-month, and then there was a reduction of a computer and handheld technician, and then an addition of a field technician, and all of those were previously approved this past year by the board. Okay, the next department that we would move to is Instructional Technology, page 107. Again, page 107 is your staffing chart. Page 108 is your appropriations and staffing comparison. Okay, so there's no proposed increases or decreases in that department. And overall, there's a proposed reduction of $100 in purchase services, a reduction of $100 in materials and supplies, and a $100 reduction in capital outlay for a total reduction of $300. And then and there is not a department staffing summary on that department. Right, yeah.
Excuse me.
Okay, so the next department we'll move to is maintenance and page 111. So 111 is your staffing chart, maintenance and the positions that are within maintenance, and then the box that's yellow highlighted are positions that work at the school level. Okay, so on page 112 is your staffing and appropriation summary. And so on your staffing summary, there's a reduction of 2 positions. One is administrative managerial and one's educational support. On your appropriations, your salaries and benefits objects, it's a reduction of $63,127. Purchase services is a reduction of purchase services is a reduction of $3,675. And capital outlay object 600 is a reduction of $887. So total overall, the reduction is $67,689. So if we flip over to page 117, if we look at section B1, during the year, there was that was previously approved by the board, there was a reduction of a mechanic and an addition of a heavy equipment operator. And I think basically it was a realignment of job classification. And then in section B2 is your proposals for positions for 2021. Proposing to delete a Carpenter 1 position. Proposing to add a site-based technician 1, and proposing to delete a site-based technician 2, and then proposing to delete a maintenance foreman. So that ties back to your net of a 2-position reduction. Okay, so the next department that we would move to is Department School Safety, page 143. Again, 143 is your staffing chart, so you have 2 positions reflected there. So if you look at page 144, on your staffing comparison, you'll see the addition of a position, but that's just a transfer from another department. I think, isn't it? Yeah.
Board members, on that, we worked this year, Mr. Dean and I, to consolidate some of the safety measures in the school, And so that maintenance foreman position, we're asking to transfer it from the maintenance cost center to the safety cost center. And I've talked to Mr. Dean about this. That's our fire safety foreman and inspector. And so Mr. Dean and I've talked to Mr. Bolton and also our fire safety inspector, and we feel like it's a better alignment to have those housed in one area. And so that's the reason it's a transfer of a position and not an increase or decrease.
Okay, so page 144 was an increase of one position, but again, it's from a transfer from another position, and maintenance had a reduction of a position. So under the appropriation comparison, you see under salaries and benefits an increase of $103,916. That's made up of the transfer of the position plus the Florida retirement contribution rate increase, health insurance projected increase, and any salaries that increases that were granted the previous year. Okay, and then we move to page 146. And again, if you look at section B2, it shows you the maintenance foreman. Under type, it has a T for transfer, and it shows one position and the cost of the position, including benefits. And the A then references the note at the bottom of the page, which explains what's being proposed and when it would become effective. Okay, the next department we would move to is student assessment, and that's page 157. $157 is the staffing chart, and there's one position in that department. Page 158 is your staffing and appropriation comparison. Again, staffing, there's no proposal for any increases or decreases. Appropriations, the only increase is in the salary and benefits object for a total of $4,393. Again, that's attributable to all of the items we've talked about dealing with personnel. Okay, so now we'll move to Transportation Central Zone, which is page 176. Shows the positions under that program director, and of course, as you probably remember from previous years, Jay's position is split over 3 zones, so he shows up as a .33 in each zone, and then the drivers and route coordinators and mechanics that apply to that particular zone. The boxes that are highlighted in yellow are positions working at the school level. So page 177 is your staffing and appropriation comparison. You can see on your staffing comparison, there's a proposal of .72 of a position. And on your appropriation, and the .72 was previously approved this past year. On your appropriations comparison, under salaries and benefits, there's the increase is $71,952. That's attributable to the increase in a transportation assistant and a laborer that were partial increases of a position, and then your health insurance increase, your FRS increase, and any raises that were granted in the past year. So if we move to page 182, this is your department staffing summary. And if we look at section B1, that shows you the .72, what makes up that .72 that was previously approved in the 1920 year. .66 of a transportation assistant, and .06 of a laborer. Okay, the next department that we'll move to is Transportation North Zone, and that is page 183. Again, 183 is the staffing chart. The boxes that are highlighted in yellow are positions that are working at the school. Okay, under the, and 184 is your staffing and appropriation comparison. And the staffing comparison shows a reduction of .26. Those are, that reduction of .26 occurred during this past year, and that was two different positions, small percentages. And so we'll talk about that when we get to the department staffing page. So under your appropriation, salaries and benefits, there's an increase of $85,483. Again, that's attributable to a FRS increase, health insurance increase, and any past year salary increases. Purchase services, a reduction of $5,550. Energy services, an increase of $200. And materials and supplies, an increase of $35,000, and other expenses is an increase of $250 for a total of $117,183. Okay, so if we go to page 190, again, if we look at section B1, that shows you that .26 reduction in positions. That was in a transportation assistant that was deleted for .34 of a position, and then .08 of a position for a laborer that was added. Okay, so we will move to the last department, which is Transportation South, on page 191. Again, page 191 is your staffing chart. The items that are in yellow are positions that are servicing at the school level. If we flip over to page 192, that's your staffing and appropriation comparison. And you can see an increase of a .78 position from last year. That occurred during last year, and then I'll tell you specifically what it was when we get to the department staffing summary. So on the appropriations, the net on salaries and benefits is an increase of $126,405. Again, that's related to the .78 increase in the position and all of the other factors that applied to positions as far as FRS, health insurance, and prior year raises. Purchase services is a reduction of $1,870. Energy services, a reduction of $1,000, and other expenses is an increase of $150 for a total increase of $123,685. So if we go over to page 198, if you look at section B1, it was a transportation assistant 9-month that was added for .78 during the year. And as you know, with transportation, those types of positions are fluid depending on the needs of students at any particular point in time, that we may need an additional transport assistant or a monitor. So I think that's all of the departments that we've gone through. And again, I'd just like to finish what I have to say with that this is minimal, as you can tell from each and every one of the departments as far as proposing any increases. Everyone looked at their budgets and tried to reduce their budgets, reduce positions, and so this is probably one of the lowest increases that we've had in department budgets in several years. So if anybody has any questions or any additional information they'd like, if you just let me know, I'd be happy to provide it.
And I'll just go around real quick, Mr. Destin, any?
How many total new administrative positions are there? How many? If any?
No, I mean, the comparison, if you look at the comparison, we didn't have, we don't have any administrative positions. We have, and you may have seen it because it's got administrative / managerial, and like your foreman is under managerial, so that may be, if you're seeing that may be what it is. But we didn't have any administrators.
Okay, well, that's, congratulations to be able to get it down to that point.
And anything else?
Oh, that's all I
Okay,
have.
thank you, Mr. Destin. Dr. White?
No, Mr. Bryan, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Kelly? I think she had.
Work to go into those booklets and that presentation, and thank you to the staff members who put that together. Thank you, Ms. Scallon.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Kelly. Ms. Ivanchek?
I don't have any questions, but I do want to thank Ms. Scallon and her staff for a great presentation and a well put together display of all the information. Thank you.
And I will echo this again. Thank you, Ms. Scallon. And there was a tab at the back. Did we want to go over debt services, or did I? Did that all get?
No. Typically, that's not a department, but I can run through it with
Okay.
you if you'd like. And basically, what you want to look at is you want to look at the estimated new revenue on the revenue comparison and the appropriations, which is the first page, 199. That's the easiest. And so for this year, our debt service will be about $6.4 million, and that's servicing our COP issue. And so as I've been mentioning, that will be paid off in the next 2 years. So you will have this year, that's $6 million. Next year, you will have about a $3.8 million payment, and then you would be then you would no longer have debt service on those COP issues.
And that is for Riverside and Shoal River, is that?
Yes, sir, but it's also, what happens is when you do a COP issue, then there are periods where if the market becomes favorable, then you would do a refunding, and so you refund, and so it kind of wraps into, so it is for those two schools, but there's also some pieces of some prior COPs that we had.
All right. All right. Thank you, Ms. Scallon. And Mr. Chambers?
So the only thing I'd say to wrap up, at least from my standpoint, is to thank Rita. I think, as you know, to put an entire budget together, there's many components of it, and it's a lengthy process. And as you know, we've been going through the whole COVID situation, and she probably did not get everything as early as normal, and yet she never once complained, at least that I know of. She's her staff and department, as you know, second to none. What they do to keep us in a strong financial position is amazing, but just cannot thank Rita enough and her department enough for going through this process. So thank you, Rita.
And I know a few months ago, Ms. Ivanchek made the comment about being on a first name basis like Cher. Well, I agree with her on, there's Rita. We have Rita.
That's
So,
right.
okay. All right. If there's nothing else, this meeting is adjourned.